My apologies once more, but I am reading some of your letters, you see, and I don't get much chance to get through them. There's quite a lot of letters keep coming in. So this is our second last session before tomorrow. And when we start at 10 o'clock, I understand, and there are a number of people who have to leave to get planes and things around about up past 11 or up past or so, and I understand that. But what I want to do now is do a little recapitulation of something that we've done in these 9 days. And I'd like to start with the female in the woman. This is extremely important to us men as well as to women, because unless woman starts to be what she is, man can't be what he is. And that's been the difficulty, because woman has lost what she is in trying to please man, largely this is, and so man gets away with it, you know. We get away with it because woman's not strong enough. She's so weak, she'll give in to us because she just loves us. And although we love woman, we've still got that 10% drive in us to build a world, to do other things. A woman really fundamentally doesn't really want to do anything but be loved. That's the true nature of woman. But then woman has become assertive. Woman's become emotional. Doesn't matter what the reasons are, she's become emotional, she's become assertive, she's become more and more, as I say, like a man. And what she's got to do is to be the female that's in her, because the female in woman is quite natural. A woman would be quite natural in her own body, because it's a woman's body, and that was made by God. That is quite natural. But then something has crept into woman, such as her pain or unhappiness, the conditioning of pain, suffering, the conditioning of not liking and liking, which are just conditions. And all this has corrupted the pure body of woman, which she is. And so that drives her to be assertive. It drives her to try to find love. It drives her to make all sorts of choices and decisions from that discontent or assertiveness, which is unhappiness, inside of her. And so the woman has become impure, because she has been possessed by herself to a large degree. Now, the reality is that the body was made by God, and the female is made by God. The female in woman is made by God. Like the female in all the instinctive animals is made by God, only there's nothing in between the female animal and the female in the animal. There's nothing between it, like we start to have ourself between us, between those things. So now I draw your attention to the next step. A woman has to become more the female that she is. That means more the simplicity of what it is to really be woman in the essence. And that to me is what I call the female, made by God. The wonderful mystery of her, for instance, that's the female in her, not the woman. It would have been the woman when the female and the woman were one, but between the female and woman and woman herself has come this sort of aggressiveness or emotion or self-doubt or unhappiness or discontent. All that has separated these two things that are really one, have become two. And the female is very difficult for the woman to actually live consciously. And what I want to do, endeavor to do, is to tell you what it is, so that you will recognize it. One thing is that it is so beautiful in woman that you can't miss it when it's there. And that is her mystery, and that is the unpossessable part of her. And it's so beautiful that we men really, when we're pursuing woman, apart from the sexual part, we pursue woman because of the sexual attraction and to sexually have her, but it is the female in her that we truly love, that's really behind the sexual attraction. So what I'm saying is that the female has got to arise like the phoenix out of the ashes of the woman, meaning out of the ashes of herself. And there she then becomes what she is in purity, and not easy, but it does mean that she's got to give up, well, many of the things that I've said. She's got to give up her emotions, because she can't. The female has no emotions. The female only loves. Now, it is true that you've got to have something to love. And the fundamental thing that the female loves is its own source, which is God or truth or life that I've been talking about all morning. She loves that before any man. So that's the first thing you have to do, is to love the other. Love the thing that you might see in the man. But then I've just had a letter, again, I keep getting these letters from a woman who's just split with her husband, and which frequently happens here. And she says, I see the love in him. And there's no doubt that we see the love in each other. But there's also something else that drives us, both men and women, to be assertive, to assert ourselves, and to choose, to want, to take a position. To take a position is an assertion, and the female does not take a position. If she can't take a position, because she's already in a place, and a place is not a position. A place is in a place of knowledge, of what it is just to be simple and to love. And if she can't find a man to love like that, then the first thing to love is God and life and truth. And so that's what the female loves. And all she wants is a man, really, who loves God sufficiently to give up his assertiveness, to give up all that makes him unhappy, which is his assertiveness, which is a cover for his self-doubt. And all she wants is a man to love like that. Now, so she can't find a man truly to love, because where's the man that has given up his self-doubt and his thinking and his wanting and his wishing? There is, of course, a place where a woman and man are suited in the sense that they both have a balance between them, and they both, although they might not be what I'm talking about, the full female or the full male, and not the man, they have a balance, and so they come together and they find that they live together harmoniously, and also acknowledging their love of God first, before each other, but in each other, so there's no problem there. And there's no doubt that this happens between man and women. It's pretty rare, because we still use our likes and dislikes to choose and decide. And when it happens, though, it's a very beautiful thing. It doesn't mean that either is purely what they are, but they're purely what they are sufficient to blend or meld together, as it were, in their life. This can happen. But what I'm talking about is the God in woman, which is the female in woman. Of course, it has no person. It just has no person. The woman has a personality and the woman has person. But the female in her doesn't. You know, to me, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to me because it's unpredictable. I do love the female's unpredictability. Sometimes it drives man mad, but it doesn't drive me mad because the woman loves me, The female loves me, so I don't care what she does, because I'm delighted just to see her walk around, or just to hear her talk, or just to hear her laugh, or do anything, or sing, or do something. It doesn't worry me because I just love that. I love her unpredictability, and I love the lack of moods. I'm always saying to my woman, well, it's so beautiful, the constancy of you, that you have no moods. You don't go up and you don't go down. You've got a sort of upness all the time. Now, that's not to try and make a paragon of her. For God's sake, that would be an unholy thing to do to her, because she runs this whole organization internationally and locally. She's the low-profile one that a lot of people don't even know she runs it, because she's not assertive in her running of things. She's not after power. She's just being what she is. But then, of course, she has to confront different things in the world in running such an organization and making decisions that she has to make. Although she's supported by a very good staff, everything comes back to her. That's where the buck stops. And so, of course, she has to deal in the world where all of you have to deal. And then she has to recover very quickly, which sometimes can be difficult when you've got a hell of a lot of work on and things to do. But the ability is there to recover in the woman if she will only give up the last moment. Give up the attachment to trying to get everything done in the same day, because you'll never get it done anyway. Something else, the phone will ring and you get another lot come down on you. You'll never get it all done. You must do what you can do and then stop and let it go as much as you possibly can. Now, that's difficult. We do have a human mind, all of us. And when you're under the pressure of organization or whatever it is you do, it's difficult for the mind not to dwell. We must acknowledge that. But the thing is, as much as possible, you're not always under pressure. As much as possible, to be joyous, to not let moods of discontent and self-doubt come in, because that's all they are. Moods come from self-doubt and self-judgment. And because other people have judged you or thinking that they're judging you, you have to be above that. And of course, one way that heals that is for a woman to be truly loved. And that's what I'm endeavoring to do with my life in this existence, is to awaken this in man so that woman can be truly loved, and to awaken it in woman so that man can be truly loved, and they can both love together in their femaleness, in their female and their male, not in their woman and their man. The other must rise out of it, and that's what's called the noble man is the man that is the pure male, which is purely what he is. So I would suggest to a woman that she give up her assertiveness as much as she possibly can. She should give up trying to teach man anything, trying to instruct him, because there is a time when she must, and that's past now, when she must stop him from doing this, stop him from doing that, and show him. That's a time. There's a time in the life, and all the people coming behind you will have to do that at different times. But then the thing eventually is for the woman not to have to teach man anything. Why is that? Why would she ever reach the place where she didn't have to teach him anything? Because he already knows. and lives that, then he doesn't have to be taught. He doesn't have to be subjected to heartbreak and the comings and goings, the leaving of him and the coming back to him and then the leaving of him again. He doesn't have to be subjected to that, because the reason that she left him is because he didn't see that he wasn't being straight enough for her. Now, of course, there's always the woman. There's always the other side of the equation. But I'm talking about man. He should know what comes between them from him. He should know that. If he hasn't lived the spiritual life enough yet. He's not consciousness enough yet. So he doesn't have to be taught. That's the place to get, where you don't have to be taught. Now, isn't that fair enough? That we know. And the woman also doesn't have to be taught or told to pull back, to stop coming on so strong, to not be so emotional, because what are you emotional about? You're about self-judgment. You think that people don't like you, or you think that you're being judged, and so you self-judge and you have self-doubt. Now, you must stop that. That is not holy. And it's not the female. The female dances round the place, lightly. She does, right? She tries on several frocks or things, and she does that. She doesn't know. She doesn't wear, or she might pick up one and she'll wear it, and otherwise she might change 4 times. Well, okay, that's beautiful. I mean, she's a scintillating creature, and so her clothes represent to her something more than man. Man will look in the mirror to look good and judge the situation, but it's woman that keeps changing her clothes, because she's such a scintillating thing. She really is changing all the time, and she loves to keep changing, and she loves to do her hair differently, and because it gets a bit stale that way, whereas we men tend to get a certain hairdo and we stick to it. And women, no chance with women. Because eventually she'll say, no, I got to change this. Not that there's anything wrong with what she's got now, but she's a creature of change. And you know what we men are, don't you? We're all stick in the mud. We are. It's our nature. Well, I'm settled here and everything's going fine. Yes, of course I love you. And everything's going fine. And we've got some good money coming in, and we're all right, aren't we? Are we? That's all stick in the mud, thinks everything's okay, but it's not okay because he hasn't asked his woman, or he hasn't been honest with her. And so sooner or later the female would arise in her and say, enough. Or it might arise in him, and the man in him will say, enough. You never know where it's going to come from, because these are two extraordinary manifestations of God. But at this stage, although man is doing his best, I haven't been able to talk much about the male like I can about the female. Man's got to get there. He's got to give up his manness. He's got to do that. He's got to be easier, not so serious. And then we find woman trying to be spiritual. Now, you can't try to be spiritual. I mean, that's a discipline. And you can't try to walk around being spiritual. You can't do it. And the same applies to man. You can't do it. I'm talking about woman, though. You can't try and be spiritual. Look, to be spiritual is to be unburdened. To be spiritual is to be joyous. Not just because your personality is being putting on an act, but because it's rising from in you. You're grateful for every moment of your life, and you're not in love with any man. You can love a man, but you're not in love with him. You mustn't fall in love with him. I mean, the thing to be in love with a woman or a man is to be in the orb of God in each one. And there's 2 orbs that come together and become one glowing orb, as it were. And that's to be in love. That's in the love of God and harmony and truth and beauty. And that is possible. But you can't fall in love. Fall in love is to be blind. And if you fall in love with a man, woman, you've lost it. You'll be manipulated. And you won't be able to get out because you'll be tied by your attachment. You've got to give up this falling in love, and you've got to make the break. If you can. So I just wanted to talk about the female who is joyous. What's your burden? What is your burden? The man doesn't love you, well then you better leave him. You better leave him if he doesn't love you, or you better bring him to his senses so that he says, look, I want to live with you, I don't want to leave you, I want you back again. So, well, what's the deal, man? What are you going to give me? What are you going to give me because I left you because you were giving me the wrong thing? Will you tell me what I was giving you that was the wrong thing, and I'll drop it now, and it won't happen again as long as you love me and allow me to love you. Well, in that case, it's possible the woman might see that there's some truth in what the man is saying and that things have changed, because often you have to leave him to change him, and vice versa. The man has to leave the woman to change her. But in that case, when man leaves a woman, it's not not usually as based on truth as when a woman leaves a man. Not usually. She doesn't leave him for someone else. She just leaves him because he's not delivering the goods. To leave for someone else only means that no woman will leave you if you love her enough. And people get the idea that loving a woman's enough. You know, well, I just got to say for the new people, when people tell me that they love one another and how things are good, things are between them, but, and they say, but we do love one another. I say, but do you love one another enough? And that usually stops the conversation, because then they start to realize, no, I don't love him enough, or he doesn't love me enough. That's usually the awakening point, because it is in human nature that we quantify love. We quantify how much in quantity, this is what goes on in us, he or she loves me. Now, the thing about real love is it's a quality. And there's no such word as qualify. Qualify. There's no such word as qualify in love, because love is a quality and qualify has nothing to do with love. It's not the same as quantify, but you can qualify for a race. You can qualify by showing your prowess, by showing how good you are, which is what happens in all sorts of races. You can qualify by learning something in the university or at school. You can qualify. But that's got nothing to do with quality as far as love's concerned. Love is just quality. Love is just a quality. And you can't qualify it or quantify it. Right? It's that because it requires a total abnegation, a total giving up of yourself and your positions and your likes and dislikes. That's what it demands. Now, another thing I'd like to talk about. There is in my teaching lots of men who are becoming tantric teachers, Well, you've seen my latest letter, that I had to write it because it's just so ridiculous. And of course, it's open slather for sex with women. That's not to say that the men are not motivated by some realization. I'm not saying that. But generally speaking, it's a great sexual feast. And groups, It's back to the old Osho Rajneesh stuff, where he handed him over to this to the therapist, the sex therapist, to go into the room with the groups of women and the leading man. Well, tantric masters don't operate in indiscriminate groups where you can join a group. That's not a tantric master. Because there's so much pretense in this region, because you must remember the Luciferic legacy. Now, if a man says to you, woman, that he is a tantric master or has some tantric power, okay, fair enough, but then you must examine his life. You know, any sign of violence, for instance, is a sure sign, pretension. It doesn't matter how sort of a realization he's had. You know, many men have realizations of very high nature, but that realization has got to be lived here in existence. And any realization certainly does not provoke any violence or allow or admit of any violence. So any violence, any drunkenness, any addiction to drugs can't be a tantric master. And you have to be alert enough to be able to look at the tantric master's life to see that the realization of love or God and God that has been had there is real, has been lived. And my reports that I receive from women who have been with tantric masters suggest to me that they're not tantric masters as I know being a tantric master is at all. It's an approximation or an aspect of it, but it's not the real thing. There's an extraordinary thing that happens if you go to a tantric master. You see, there's a certain air around that of a spirituality. And there's something of an impersonal nature because it's spiritual, that it in itself is blinking like a neon light. This is okay to be with this man because he's going to make love with you. It's okay because it's got a spiritual element, or what is thought to be a spiritual element that'll do you good. And now when you go to a stranger, any of you women, if you were discontented with the way your man is making love to you, and you make love with a stranger, he doesn't have to be a tantric master as long as he's a man who has a certain tenderness and rightness and a certain love of God through his realization. I'm talking about an ordinary man, not someone who calls himself a tantric master. You can find that beautiful. You can find it quite freeing, because there's nothing like making love with another man when you've made love for years with one man, and then you go over to another man and zingo. It's lovely, it's wonderful, it's beautiful. Why? Because with a tantric master there's no fault. You're not to blame. You haven't broken any codes because it's spiritual. And so there's a great release happens inside you. That's not to say that's all of it, but that's most of it. And the next question is, what is the purpose of the tantric master in making love with you? But the purpose of the tantric master is to bring you to a greater sense of love of God. Not of relief from your mind or your emotions, and because you're free, because you've done it at last, and it's so wonderful. Not that, but you come out with a greater love of God. And once or twice is not the tantric master taking you on. And in a group, it certainly doesn't take you on in a group. It gives you the experience of being able to make love without any guilt or doubts, because it's spiritual. Because also Rajneesh referred you to that group. You're okay, you're on the right way, that's it. Let them all fuck you one after the other. It's okay, it's spiritual. Well, I know all masters don't operate like that, thank God. But there's all this. You must examine the life. You must truly examine the life to see that it is in equilibrium, that everything that is said is lived. There are more tantric masters in Europe, it seems, and in America, I'm sure, than, they're everywhere. Groups, everybody knows all about it. But I don't hear anyone speaking about the love of God and the wonder of the universe and all the rest of it. I don't hear it. And I don't read it in the books. I read the same old stuff in the books. You know, same old stuff that we've all been saying for year after year, and there's new books written about it. It's the same old stuff. How about something new? About love. About now. About life. About God. We're going on with the same old evolutionary thing. The past repeating itself in a certain served up different way, but always the same old stuff repeating itself. Just going on. How about something new, something original? Well, I don't hear it. And I don't hear it from the people, the women who have been with the so-called tantric masters or tantric teachers or whatever they are. I don't hear it from the women. You cannot live if you're going to realize God, which is what's behind it all. Because you can't be a tantric master unless you realize God outside existence. That's the truth. You can't be a tantric master unless you realize that. And then you can't be a tantric master unless you realize God in existence, which is the female. God in female form. You've got to realize that. And of course that gives the enormous knowledge that I have of love, and the enormous knowledge that I have of truth and the universe. And it doesn't matter what you want to name, because I have realized God out of existence and in existence. And if you women are silly enough to go and believe some guy whose life does not show that he is utterly complete and served by God and life and love and truth, then you're just getting another experience. And you'll make it holy. I know that. You'll make it holy because it's so beautiful to make love in the first instance with a man that's a tantric master, you see. No blame, no doubt. No one can condemn you because it's spiritual. And what a relief that is. Oh, that's a wonderful relief not to have to be responsible, but just surrender. Wonderful. You try it sometime, anyone, with a fresh man. If you're tied into a relationship that's tired and old, you go and make love with another man that shows interest in you and love in you and love of you. It might only be temporary, but you do it, and my goodness, 8 times out of 10, you're going to find it's very, very good after all these years. But it's not the truth. It's just a passing thing. It's just a breaking up of the old. So I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating that you look and stop accepting things without looking intelligently at the life of any man or any woman. Not judging their love of God, not judging them, but looking at the life as the world is. In your experience is how you are inside. As within, so without. So if you've got problems in your existence, existential life, there's certainly something problematical inside of you. That's not to say that you're a failure or anything of that nature, but it is to show you that in the love of God and the love of truth and the realization of God and the realization of love, there are no problems anymore. What's the good of it if it's not that? What are you here for? What's the good of it? What are you doing here? What do you think the realization of God is, which you're all after, all want, in some form or other? Well, it brings perfection as in existence. It brings the perfect existential life in existence. What would you think it'd do? I mean, what are we talking about here? If we say we're living the spiritual life, what do you think happens to the enlightened man? I haven't met an enlightened man yet. I only know one. But what do you think happens in the enlightened man's life? His love life is perfect. His home life is perfect. The circumstance of his employment and everything is perfect. His whole life is like paradise, back to the Garden of Eden with Eve. That's what it is. It's a matter of going home and back. That's what the spiritual life's about. And that's why you hear so many people say, and all the letters that I receive, and I'm not saying that other masters don't get these things too, that my life is so much better. I'm changing things. I'm getting my life right, which is one of my things that I say to you, get your life right. And as you get your life righter and righter, because it's in existence, it changes you within. But you've got to change externally, not only within. And if you can change things externally, you change an enormous amount within. And then if you can change the anger that comes from within in relation to external events, then you change yourself inside and you change the external event of your life. So we got it straight. How your life is in circumstantially is an indication of how you are inside. But that doesn't mean that at times you've got to go through great anguish circumstantially, great loss circumstantially. But great loss circumstantially is not like the scientific mind would weigh it up, or the rational mind and say, oh, that's bad. Great loss circumstantially means that God loves you, that you are loved by something beyond human love, because this might wake you up, this might change your life and will change your life, and you have to go on and start a new life because the old structures have been destroyed for you. Now you're hearing me. Are you hearing me? That's what it happens for. To break our structures, which we can't help but form with our human minds and emotions. To stop us conceptualizing, to stop us hoping and wishing and wanting, when suddenly, zingo, smash. There's the opportunity then to look at why this is happening to me. It's happening to me because I was fixated in some way. I was not living through somewhere. Not because you did something, for goodness sake. People still asking me, what did I do wrong? What did we do wrong together? What happened? No. Because you got fixated in something, you got in a structure of lovemaking, you got in a structure of behavior, you got in a structure of having breakfast together, you got in a structure of having dinner together, instead of talking about love at dinner, bending over and kissing her at breakfast time, at dinner time, in the middle of anything, bending over and kissing her and smelling her and loving her. Now that's what I'm telling you, breaking the structure every moment, because why? Because of now. And it's no good telling me that you love me now, because that's gone. You better tell me now, hadn't you? Because there's another now here. How can I believe you? Because if I'm now, I can't believe anything in the past. So here I am naked. I don't know that I'm loved. Oh yes, now, I love you. Okay, sooner or later it becomes a way of living inside. That there's just an emanation of gratitude to what? To life, to love, to truth, to wonder. It becomes unconscious, an unconscious emanation. Yeah. You don't have to do it. It just rises from you all the time. I love it. I love you. And you don't have to say it because it's happening every moment, because now you're becoming more now. And what did you say? You know I love you. I don't know you love me. You haven't told me. I just told you. Well, you've got to tell me again, because I don't know that now. It's all gone. So you've got to, by your actions, you see. You can only do this by your actions, not just your words of I love you, but you've got to love all the time. And that's what you've got the body for. And that's why you've got, when I'm talking about woman, being joyous all the time, that means not burdened with mood and unhappiness, and the same with man. But a joyousness says I love. A lack of mood says I love. I don't love myself, because as soon as I love myself, I'm going to get moody and unhappy. I just love. A lightness, the enormous lightness of loving. Because you love God, you love it, what brought you here. It gets a bit hot up here when I'm passionate. But I'm passionate all the time. Now, before you close your eyes or anything, can you now, this moment, don't get in a meditative position, please. Don't change one thing. Can you please focus your intelligence, your whole, everything you are, on your pure sensation? And that does not mean that you've got to go around your whole body, because the sensation is in one part of your body, because it's in all parts of your body. If you can only just focus on the pure sensation. And the mind will say, well, where will I find it? Oh no, I'm not going to tell you where you find it. It's in your body. There it is. It's there now. The mind can't do it, but your intelligence can do it. You're focused on your pure intelligence. You see, pure sensation, if the sensation in the leg is precisely the same sensation as is in the chest, same sensation as in the head, same sensation that's in the nose, same sensation that's in your buttocks, your legs. It's all one. It's not a part at all. It is the brain that dismembers the pure sensation and then remembers it as the parts of the body. So there's the pure sensation. Now what are you looking for? Why don't you just focus on it? It's always there. But we are so conditioned by our likes and dislikes, mind that is the monitor, the thinker, the scientific mind particularly, which we now have inside of us. The cause and effect mind, that you can't just get the cause, because you want to get the effect. And the effect is what you know, and the cause is the cause of what you know. But we love to know what the cause is, and you can't know what the cause is, because if you knew it, it'd be an effect. So What are we talking about here? Am I talking gibberish? No, I'm not. I'm talking truth, speaking truth. So there you got your pure sensation. You don't have to get it in any part. It's there in your body now. That's your reality. Your whole actual living body comes out of that one sensation. Isn't that amazing? The whole body, the head, the arms and legs and all the rest of it, created by the brain, which divides and redivides and disdivides and divides the whole of that pure sensation up until it consists of members, and then the members manifest as the human body. Well, I can't help it. I got to tell you, that's the truth of things. But of course, the scientists and everybody else knows different to that. But the trouble is, that's the truth. So the sooner you stop remembering, that is, putting your body together. Now, you can't put your body together, really, because it's already together, made by God as a projection. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about an inner body that you are remembering. And so you remember yourself. So you give up eating too much, or you give up having the last word, or whatever it is, you give that up. That dismantles yourself a bit, dismembers yourself a bit, and then you start remembering. And so you, having got rid of a bit of yourself, you start remembering again, and that remembers you. And so now you're back where you started. You've still got your inner body intact because you will remember the past. See, the selfish body is all made of past. And the more you use your memory to remember your historical life, your living life, the more you remember yourself, your unhappy being inside, your happy self, unhappy self. You've got to stop remembering things. Now, I'm talking about remembering unnecessary things, but how many things have you got to remember when you go out of this door? If your body wants a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, you don't have to remember it for crying down the sink, do you? You don't have to. Your body will go over and you'll select, and you won't have to do any memory at all. Because you don't have to remember where the coffee is and tea is, because your body knows where the coffee and tea is. If only you will go still, if you can't remember, go still, and your body will guide you there sooner or later. Or it will come up to you where it is. But how many times do you remember what's unnecessary? All the time. Every time you think, you're remembering. So you build the monitor all the time, the self which is the monitor, which has the unintelligent, seemingly intelligent conversations with yourself. You keep remembering it and rebuilding it. Now, a strange thing happens when you get my age. The ability to remember is lost to a considerable degree. That's because, by the way of things, and quite naturally, you're becoming more innocent, or you should be. And all the older people will tell you the same thing. They can't remember things like they used to. They can't even remember words like they used to. And so they use 5 words where they used to use 1 to get around it. But that's a wonderful thing, because the remembering process is taken away from you naturally by God that created this whole process. And the self is trying to remember, look, I'm going mad. I can't remember things any longer. And unless I can find someone my own age to talk to and find out it's happening to them too, I'm quite disconcerted, confused. But I'm telling you, it's the most natural thing in the world, because you're supposed to become an innocent. You've lived your life. You've run your spring down. You're supposed to have anyway. And you don't need to remember anyway. What do you need to remember? Of course, I never forget the truth. I never have any trouble with that one, because that's not a memory. That's an instantaneous immediacy. And so there's no memory in that. But the other things, well, yeah. You see, you become innocent as you get older, you should be. And one of the reasons that you become innocent is that you've run your spring down. You've done it all. You've done everything, you know. Well, you should have done everything, but some people, of course, haven't done anything and they're still doing things. When they're 70 and 80, they're still wanting to do things instead of having done them enough. But at any rate, it's all right. So in the way of going out, you naturally have to get rid of your memory. It'll be done for you. And on the way in, all the children, all the university people, all the people at school have been taught how to remember. And so that's how to complicate your life, is by remembering. And so the more that you remember, the more you got to think about. And the more you got to think about, the more unhappy you'll be. Isn't it amazing? But that's human existence. Fortunately, you're going to get old and you're going to forget things. Oh, it's such a natural process, isn't it? Now, you're still there? Oh, wait a minute, I mean, it hasn't gone away. It never goes away. There it is. The part is the whole. So you don't have to go through all the process that I've given you. The part's the whole. But I wouldn't feel it as the hand or the leg or some member. I just have it in my body. That's where it is. The part is the whole. You can't separate the part from the whole in truth. So there it is. Now, isn't this the simplest thing? It's so simple that you can't remember it. You just got to do it. And what you do, you don't have to remember. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Only in the world, the rational world of science, the rational world of universities, the rational worlds of schools, the rational world of learning anything, do you have to remember. In the real world, it's the world of truth and love and life and whatever. You don't have to remember, you just got to do and be. Be. Do and be. So you got it there, the part. Can't separate the part from the whole. Well, there it is. Now, it's no good me asking you to close your eyes and do all that we had to do earlier, because you can do it now with your eyes open. As long as you don't allow your monitor, your mind, to question what you are doing. It is you who is doing it, not the mind. So the mind has no right whatever to question you or to doubt. You have to overcome doubt. The doubt is of the mind. You have to overcome doubt or you're never going to find God. And this is one way to do it, where you can do something that your mind can never do. You can be pure sensation. You can be still. You can be intelligent. And it takes great intelligence just to be pure sensation, without thinking, without interpreting, without the monitor coming in. Just being it. Because it's nothing, is it? That's the wonder of it. It's the equivalent of being nothing. Isn't that amazing? Everything out here is something, but in there it turns into nothing, which is what consciousness is. Now, if you can't do this, please take with you my advice to go around the body and feel the sensation, or focus on the sensation in the legs, the arms, the chest, and do it that way until the day comes, and always endeavor to go straight into it, into the the whole of it, which is in the body, not in any part. There's no need for the parts then. It's just there. Now, we haven't been present in these 9 days for no reason, no. It has been an involutionary process. An involutionary process, these 9 days. Everything in existence, as the scientists know, because they're stupid in relation to truth, everything here is evolutionary. They develop an evolutionary theory of life on Earth, an evolutionary theory of the Big Bang and what happened after that. And there's still evolution. They're still going on evolutionary. And the whole human race and all its ideas and everything is evolving into more complication, more unhappiness, more speed of communication, which is not communication at all. It's just a transference of information, which always causes more and more vexation and confusion and unhappiness. But that's evolution, always rolling forward. But what's happening here is involution. For as the wheel goes forward and the axle moves forward, as that goes forward, it's going forward. Now the wheel is going back at this point. It's actually going back over the ground that's already been covered by the axle. That's involution. So evolution is key to involution, and involution's key to evolution. And involution here is going within, whereas evolution is focusing on the world of awareness where everything changes and becomes complicated and evolves into something else. Whereas involution also is a form of that in which there is the dissolution more and more of yourself, the dissolution more and more of your old ideas, the putting them aside, the being able to be more new, because you're not attached to the outside structures. Although they can exist and you can exist in that world outside, here you have a greater knowledge of a greater importance to life than what the evolutionary experts talk about, a life that's always going to end. But involution reveals a life that does not end, that gets finer and more beautiful and more of a relief and a relaxation and easiness, a rightness, due to the involution that has taken place here in these 9 days. And that is why I've been able to get you to focus on the pure sensation in the body without having to go through all of the process through the different members. That's why I've been able to speak to you for the second time of life on earth. For the first time was when I dictated, or the tape about now was made over there, of the mystery of now, the speed of the light of consciousness. I've been able to do that to you, which I couldn't have done to start off with because you were too worldly. You were too attached to the evolutionary world. But in our 9 days together, we have involved. We have gone inward. And so you are more intelligent, and I can speak about those things. I can tell you what life is, which nobody has ever uttered before. The great pressure of life that makes everything move and everything grow. The wonder of it all coming from the re-experience of the vital energy of everything that's ever died. Only the vital energy comes into existence into every form and reproduces the form, because life never dies. So I'm being able to tell you these things progressively, as it were, but really through an involution that's been taking part in you, of you becoming more intelligent, more swift, more now. Leaving yourself and your structures behind and being able to listen to the master of love and life and truth and God and death, who by God's grace is with you now, but shan't be with you for that much longer. You are far more intelligent than when you came. But when you go outside and you start discussing things and doubting yourself instead of just doing what you do, and instead of having the good intelligence of your own intelligence to inspect life, what is going on in life, not what you think it's going on, not what people tell you is going on, but what is the life here? What is the life in this man, this woman? What is the life? What is the circumstantial life? That's always the reflection of what happens within. So the thing is, for you, please, to see straight and do as you do, but don't do what your feelings tell you to do until you have examined the situation very closely. Your feelings are your emotions, and they will always mislead you. And when you make a decision from your emotions, your feelings, you will have to make some correcting, take some correcting action or decision to correct the error that those feelings led you into, particularly in your love life. Now you there? Yeah. It will become unconscious, meaning unconscious. I'm unconscious, you see. I'm unconscious. And being unconscious, I'm absent. Of course, to be unconscious means you're absent, doesn't it? I'm absent. I'm unconscious. And so, whatever it is that is right and true inside of me comes up into existence. Because I'm absent, I'm not in the way. And that's you too. And eventually, you will do as you do, without thinking about it. But if people did as they do now, without thinking about it, we'd have mayhem, we'd have disaster, because they're not pure enough to do as they do. What does that mean? It means I am the consciousness of this body. My body does what I do. I've never done anything that my body didn't do. Would someone like to just test that, please? What you think is not your body doing it. That's yourself thinking. The only pure thing is what your body does and what my body does. Now, if you can only live in your body, well, there's not much happening in the way of unhappiness, because the body's not unhappy. It's the self that gets unhappy. But if you can live in your body, and then you're in your senses, and you can see the flowers, and you can see the men and the women and the birds and everything, you can see all those, and that's seen through your body. And you can enjoy your food or whatever it is that you take into your body because your body needs it. You see, you don't make a complication of your life. You do what you do. But you have to get rid of yourself, because otherwise it'll start doing in the body. And that's what you've been doing, dissolving more and more of yourself and discovering your intelligence, discovering what it is to be intelligent, because there's nothing more intelligent than your body in the first instance. It's the instinctive thing, isn't it? Oh, what intelligence is in the instinctive, in the wonder of the female who is instinctive. Oh, our wonder. So that if you put your hand on a hot stove and it pulls back immediately, not knowing, and the mind's over there, the mind's trying to work out, was that ice or hot? What's that? And the body's already pulled back from it with its instinctive, wonderful intelligence, while your labouring old mind is trying to work out what is it. Body is a wonderful thing. That's why you must make love with your body and not with your genitals only. Your genitals are part of your body. The genitals are your body. They haven't got an independent consciousness which we award to it. The self awards to them. They are part of the body. And you must make love with the whole, not the part. Although you use the parts, it's to be whole, make love with the whole body. That's love. But to make love with the part of the body, well, you separate the part from the whole, and you know what happens then. Confusion and uncertainty and doubt. When you unite the genitals with the whole body, no confusion, no doubt, no fear. You still got the pure sensation there? Yeah, of course you have. Easy, easy. But if you start remembering when you don't need to remember, out there, you will lose it. You have to be true to it and give up remembering unnecessary things. Give up lying there and thinking about things, because that's remembering. When you don't need to think about half the things you think about, or 99% of the things that you think about, you don't need to think about. Indeed, because we are creatures of the past, sometimes we have to think about an event that has been meaningful, that has been life-changing in some way, some climacteric or something. Indeed, we have to go over that sometimes, looking at it, not thinking about it, for God's sake, looking at what it is, looking. That's using your intelligence in looking into an event. But if you start thinking about it, you'll start interpreting. You'll start drawing conclusions. And there are no conclusions in existence. Only what you think is a conclusion. So when you hear me speaking intelligently as I am, you are intelligent to listen to me, to hear me. There is only one choice, remember I said. Well, there's two choices that humankind has. Only two. One, you go the way of mattering, which is remembering, thinking, concluding, drawing conclusions. The way of confusion, self-doubt, liking this, not liking that, resenting him, loving her. All these choices and choices and choices, that's one choice, to go that way. And the other is to go this way. So the whole world thinks their lives are filled with choices. No, the robotic way is to think that the world is filled with choices and filled with decisions, and I have to make such terrible decisions, and I have to do this decision, and I have to do that decision. And how often do you hear it from your friends and from yourself, all the important decisions you have to make, when I say, no, I doubt if you ever have to make a decision in your life. That's your monitor that makes most of your decisions and most of your choices. You don't need to make, I suppose, 95% of your decisions you don't have to make. It's just that you love to think about things and try to make decisions before an event occurs. And you don't even really know whether the event's going to occur. And when the event does occur, your decision is likely to immediately be reversed, that you've been thinking about for weeks. That's the monitor, that's yourself, that's the spoiler of this beautiful life made by God and polluted by men and women's minds and wanting and trying. So there's the world, which you and I have made with our minds and wantings and tryings and emotions. And there's the beautiful earth, of which each of us is a part because we are a body of it. And the world has been imposed on the earth, and the world is choking the earth as fast as it can to death. More and more. Men and women's personally made world, choking the living life out of this planet as fast as it can, choking the living life out of it, the one that you love, say you love, choking the living life out of the children through insufficient presence of consciousness and too much superficial human love, choking the life out of the children, choking the life out of everything that is natural. That's what the world made by man and woman is doing. That's what it's done to you. That's what it's done to your mother and father and all your neighbors, and they all believe in it. Made by ourselves, this world. Well, can you get back to the blessed earth inside of you and which you are? And yes, the blessed earth starts with your body. There's nothing more alive in your experience than your body. Nothing. You can pat the animal, but the trouble is you've got to pat it with your touch feeling. Whereas you can't pat your own reality. You can pat your own body from the outside, but that's not your body. Your body is what's inside the body. Because the body of itself that you touch like this, the life can be withdrawn from it at any time and it's useless. Finished. No life in it. It is the life in you. That's the reality in the first instance. And what a beautiful thing that is. And that's the reality of the blessed earth that never dies and that man and woman can never kill. All right then. So you find that as I talk to you, I recapitulate so much of what we've already done. You have been intelligent enough for me to demonstrate to you the swiftest consciousness, the swiftest light, the light of consciousness in your experience, the rarest thing on this planet. You know what life is, that every living thing dies, and yet its vital energy, that wondrous vital energy, goes into the great reservoir of life that is inside your psyche and mine. And that all that life presses into existence to re-experience existence again in form. And that the form is here. The form is here in every brain. And that's what the life comes into. For there'd be no mosquito unless you saw it. Someone has to see it for a mosquito to exist. Someone with a brain has to see a mosquito. Someone with a brain has to see the cane toad, or it doesn't exist. But we don't have a sufficient intelligence to get that. There always has to be a brain present to see anything that exists. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. It's just a report. just an appearance of information, no reality. So tomorrow morning is our last session. Kate, please, just reaffirm for me. Sorry, we start at 10 o'clock tomorrow and we finish at midday. And I realize that some people have to catch planes, and I understand if you've got to get up. But I trust you don't go if you don't have to. I trust we finish these 9 wonderful days together so that you are empowered, so that you are strengthened intelligently to face life, circumstantial life, more openly, more in the confidence in your own intelligence and your own directness within your body. So thank you all for coming, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Thank you.